that Mohammed is doing the demo today, guys, because he went ahead and had all this Node-RED stuff in there. So I was like, he's got nothing to do for lab 3 and 4. So it's good that he's demoing today so that he doesn't have to turn in much for the next one.
I was planning actually to get different sensors to work, but expect me to submit something. I won't let it go, without anything.
And then if Mohammed, if you want to be a teacher someday, you definitely got that taken care of because he submitted videos and was going through highlighting the code and describing what it did.
Oh, thank you.
And I was like, this is really good. And interesting. This will be, I'm sure this will be a good demo. Let me make you co-host here.
Sure.
And then you can, I don't know, guys. We'll see what he does. He could just go into his lab 1 and 2, which shows his connection to Node-RED and some of his Node-RED stuff. So I think I'm going to stop sharing here. You should be able to do share your screen now.
Sure. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
It just came up for me.
Okay, good. So I'm sure that you guys have got to the point that you install the Node-RED, and the neat thing about the Node-RED is you can run it on any platform. From it's a cross-platform applications that would actually help us to to work. You don't need a Raspberry Pi to actually use the Node-RED. That's the beauty of the Node-RED. So this is the process. If anyone has any problem, installing the Node-RED, please get in touch with me. I would be more than happy, to troubleshoot. I had a lot of problems with my own Node-RED to get it to work. So after you, considering that you have installed the Node-RED, so it's weird that how my Node-RED is working. So if you get to the point, I think mine is actually the older version. If you just use Node-RED, start, it might not work on your end. You see, for example, mine is a starts, but sometimes it gives me some error. You see that it just right now it quit. That could be because the port that is being used by the Node-RED to communicate with your, your operating system and your rest of your system is not working. So what I do, I use Node-RED stop. It just funny, and it works. And I got it to work like this. So right now, as soon as you run it, it will give you guys the address, the the URL that you could use actually to connect your to interact with your Node-RED. You have also the IP address, which is a local host and /1880.
Hey, Mohammed.
Yes.
I saw that on the videos. I said, why is he typing in Node-RED stop? And I had no idea what you were doing.
Yeah. This was a bug in the version of the Node-RED that I installed. It was just because it's open source. You have to, I have researched tons to find out, okay, you have to put Node-RED stop. And as you can see, when you are running it, you have a lot of, you will see the underlying, application that is running. For example, I have a MQTT is running, MQTT server, and several other, JSON passing variables to my Node-RED, which I'm going to get to them now. Please, if you have any question, ask. I would be more than happy to answer you guys. So as you guys probably have seen and played with it, Node-RED is made of a lot of GUI interfaces that would help you to actually drag and drop different functions within your code. So one thing that I would always start, if this is the first time you are using it, I would start with timestamp. This is just did I get the timestamp right? So inject mode, sorry. You could use an inject mode. That would help you to actually inject a timestamp to the rest of the system that you have. And then the most important thing to debug and troubleshoot your data is a message payload or debug mode. So let me just simply connect these two together, right? So when you click on a timestamp, you would be able to actually set up the timestamp in a way that you could run it continuously. Basically, it will pass a payload from the timestamp to the rest of your systems. Normally, I use this one for the troubleshooting. It's very useful. But you could just run it as it is right now. Let me just go ahead and, so after you just start with this one, I have not installed any packages yet. This is just off of the Node-RED off of the shelf. So I'm going to just deploy it. So deploying basically is like programming and making sure that everything works. So right up at the top, as Professor showed us, you have the debugging sections. I'm getting an error for the JSON path. Just ignore this one. So to test your little program that you write, you can just click on the this little icon. So it will pass a Linux-based timestamp that it gets from your system to the to the other side. So that's very basic. But if I can go ahead and back and increase this one as an interval, maybe every 1 second, let's see what will happen. So you could just confirm that one. Now you can see that the data is pouring in every 1 second. That data comes. So you could simply modify this data by using, for example, intermediate functions. Let's say that would be the next function that I would use. Let's bring a function. Let's say you want to actually modify the payload that you're sending to the rest of your code. So you could simply say that, hey, or you could add different, information to that one. Let's say I want to say message is basically referring to the packet of the information that passes from one end to another end. Let's say, for example, I would say message payload is equal hello world, for example. I don't know, I have never seen anyone use it this way, but let's see if it works. I have never tried it. So then I would go ahead and, sometimes this has become very annoying, so I don't like it to run it as interval if it's not required. So then you would confirm this one, and let's erase all of our debugging and then pass it on. So now you can see that I successfully modified the message that goes from one end to another end with this little, it's a JavaScript language. It's a modification of the JavaScript language that you could use here to actually modify your messages. This function would be your friend when you want to modify or pass the data from your hardware to the Node-RED. You will see later on how I have used them. And it's not that difficult. It's very straightforward. And there are tons of, helps out there. Just Google it. You will find tons of information. So let's go ahead and let me see one other project that I have done before we get to the lab 1 and 2, I guess. Yeah, how many of you guys are familiar with the weather? What's that? It was open weather map.org. How many of you guys are familiar with this, platform or this website, I guess? I'm just going to click on this one. This is a organization that actually sell weather informations to the clients. So the way that this weather station is set up, they have probably Professor is familiar with them and he knows about them. So everyone, they have a certain a platform to measure the humidity, measure the speed of the wind speed, temperature, and all of this goodies. And they would share it with the weather API. So for us as a student, we could simply go ahead and create an account with them. And when you create an account, you would be able to use the exact same data from any of their locations. So the way that you would do it, you could, after you signing up, you could go to the API, and from the API, you could actually go to the API documentation. That's very straightforward. And then this one explains how to actually use this data, which is in a form of JavaScript object-oriented. They call it JSON. You can see here. You can actually download it as XML too. So let me see if I can open one of these to see how does it look like, the data. So, okay, there you are. So for example, this would be the format that, it would be used by the openweather.org to actually pass the data information from their servers to your Node-RED, So for example, here you can see that the coordination is being given. Sometimes you could actually filter this by the city, state, and different locations. So then it will give you guys, the information about the weather, some temperature, pressure, humidity. So you don't need to use any sensor actually. You could get this base information right away from openweather.org. visibility, wind, and all of these goodies. You could actually, set them up based on a city ID. So you can see here, Dayton has a city ID that you could put it there and use it. So recently, I have worked with this one before, just using a regular, JSON and using that function to actually manipulate the data to be able to display it on my dashboard. But what they did, they create their own, I would say, little package, I would say, right? The palette we call it here. So you only need to come and copy your API key that you created. You set up your city and state, and most of the time, the city and the state would be easy to find. And then you could select between different options. This is the free version of it. So you would be able to get the current weather information and 5-day data forecast. So let's go ahead and deploy this one on and see what we are getting. So just looking at what is the raw data that is coming. Again, remember, I'm just using exactly this timestamp again to make sure that I'm using that one to trigger the Dayton palette to, to initiate the data, fetching the data from their server. So when I'm clicking on this one, let's go ahead and turn on the message payload. So you can see that all the information, although I think I put this one on the, because I'm using that one to display it on a gauge and on our dashboard, I just put it on an interval of 1 second. So as you can see here, as the data coming, all the information that I have set up in my API is coming here. So weather is clouds, detail is broken clouds, and it gives me temperature in the Kelvin. I mean, these are just, I was playing with it. And temperature in Celsius is 16.8 Celsius. Now I could access any of this payload information. This is very important. It takes me a while to actually get used to this way of addressing. It's very easy. So you would say, message, the payload, the payload is actually the entire message. Let me just delete this one. And let's just, look at the, and if you double click on this one, you can see that it just says message payload.humidity. I'm not using any function or anything to manipulate it. It's very straightforward. And you just click on this one. Now you can see it give us the humidity without any sensor. I can do the exact same thing with the temperature Celsius. So you can see it gives me temperature Celsius. So if I want, let's say, move forward and, display my data in a more user-friendly environment that, you could just type in the browser and show it. As the professor showed us, you could use the Node-RED UI package. And you can install that one from Managing Palette. And I believe I have set it up. So for those of you guys who are the electronics, it has a built-in PID controller. I have used this one a lot. It's fun to work with it. It has auto-correction systems and everything in it. Node-RED dashboard. This is the package that you want to install, and then you have access to what we call it as a UI or GUI dashboard. So in order to get to that dashboard, I could just come here 127, then exact same address. Instead of leaving it as it is, you just put U-I. So then you would be able to actually display it within here, but I haven't set it up yet. Let's go ahead and set it up. So in order to extract each of these, messages, let's say I want to only display, humidity or temperature. I could just use the function that I was talking about. So you would replace the message payload from this function forward with a message.payload.temperature. This is very straightforward. And then you would return the message to it. So now let me go ahead and, again, as I mentioned, the debugger is your friend. You would always find, it will help you to troubleshoot and find out what's going on. So I'm just gonna print the message payload, make sure that temperature Celsius is being filtered, right? So then I would deploy my program, and you can see that it only extracts the temperature in a Celsius. Okay, now let's go ahead and see if we can actually display that one in a dashboard. So in order to display it on a dashboard, if you scroll down after you installing the dashboard, it will bring us, a section. I don't want to search it. I want to show you guys. Here, there you are. You can see it under the dashboard, icons. So you could actually display it in a text or display it, in a gauge or chart. Let's go ahead and use the gauge, and also I'm going to use the chart because it's fun, So I'm just going to connect them here. Then the next thing, you need to make sure that you assign you group them together to be able to display in one page. You could create, a name. If I'm going fast, please let me know, okay? So I will call it this one, for example, Dayton. Let's call it weather. No, I do have a weather. So let's call it Dayton, and then we could create a new one, and let's call this one home. Let's say open weather, right? Update, and you could actually modify this one, make sure the Celsius minimum, maximum, let's say, for example, hopefully it's not going to get more than 45 degrees, or let's put it, 750 Celsius. It's not, a desert, but we could put it that way. You could label it as, temperature, and press done. And then this is just for the gauge. Let's go ahead and see how the gauge looks like. The process for the chart would be exactly the same. So now if I go to my gauge, you can see that the temperature is here, and actually keep updating it every 1 second. I could actually reduce that timing or increase it. But for example, 1 second probably, it's a lot. You could just put it, it just depends on your project. So from up to here, you could actually now combine it with the hardware. Let's say there are some packages like Raspberry Pi. If you want to actually use the Raspberry Pi to turn on a switch, or turn on a fan, or turn on a heater, you could simply do it from here. Let me see if I can find. It's been a while I didn't use Raspberry Pi. Let me go through them. So you could actually drop a same palette for the Raspberry Pi, define which pin you want to actually output, and also you could input it from the Node-RED tool. Also, another fun thing you could do, writing Python code right here. There you are. This is a Raspberry GPIO. You can see I have the input and I have output. So you could basically you need a function to actually convert this one to the value that you want to use in your Raspberry Pi, and you could assign the same pins that Ryan showed us last time. Okay, I guess this is then the charting is the same thing. It's very nice. You could see the data as it's coming in. Okay, the next thing that I want to show you guys, let me just make sure that this is off. I don't want to inject anything to our debugger while we are working on the other sections. Okay, we did talk about this one. Okay, this one was the project that I used to actually connect the serial port to this one. It was very straightforward. Honestly, I have never used it until Professor talked about it, and then I went and I got excited because I was always thinking that maybe you need a special serial protocol to communicate, like I2C SPI, but it was way easier and more intuitive than what I was thinking. So here, this is just you download the serial package. So that's something that you have to do, which I believe I use Node-RED-serial. I cannot see it. Can you guys see that one? That was the last one that I installed, but you would just say, Node-RED dash serial. So here, this is the, I believe that's the one that I use. There are few different one of them. I actually never saw that the serial Modbus. I have done some project with the Modbus. So yeah, this is, I think that's what I installed, node-red-node serial port. So in my project, what I did, let me show you the Arduino side, because you need to actually format the data in a way that you could actually split it and use it in a Node-RED. Otherwise, you won't be able to, use the data that you're passing. So this is a blinking, project that I have done. Instead of blinking one LED, I start doing a one LED, and I said, maybe I should do RGB. Then I select, RGB, and then, I decide to actually do them in random colors. It was fun getting it to work. And then eventually, when you get them to work in, Blink, the next step is actually passing those data into your Node-RED. So what I have found, I have passed the data using the decimal. It does not work. So I'm using the serial.print with the, with the hex options that you could actually convert. It will convert the data into the hex, and it will send it to the other side. One thing that is important, I will show you guys, you have to make sure that you put a comma. This is how I split the data in a Node-RED. You could do it different way. This is all up to you. So let me show you how this is working. So this is another error that you will definitely get it, and that's because you are using the exact same serial port that is being used by your Node-RED. So what you need to do, you need to come here, shut down your Node-RED. So you see that Node-RED is done. So it's the COM port that I'm using, it's not occupied anymore, that serial port. So then I would, upload my data. I'm not sure if you guys could see that one. Can you guys see the color? Oh, maybe okay. Can you guys see the color? Yes, no? Maybe off of my finger.
Yeah, you can see it. I was seeing it there.
So that color is basically if I go to the serial monitor, it would be the combination of these 6 hexadecimal numbers, right? So then I would use a serial port. So I'll close the serial monitor. So you can see that the baud rate is 600, the exact same setting that I have on the Node-RED. So then I will go ahead and run my Node-RED. Then I will go back to my dashboard. So you can see that now there is no connection. We have to give it a second. So then what I did, I actually extract the color of the RGB. Then I assign it to just a simple, text, a circle within the text that I have. And then you go here to the dashboard, and you come here. So it should blink. Oh, it could be that the port that I'm using is different. Let me double check it, why it's not coming in. I believe I stopped this one. So I don't want to print anything here. So I would be able to debug this one. Oh, I see. Huh? No. Did I upload it? I did upload it. Yeah, I did upload it. The color of this LED is supposed to change. Let me double check the port number one more time. So the port that I'm using is port 16. And I have set up this one as a port 16 too. And let me double check this one. Everything is good. I'm extracting the message.color is equal message.payload. So again, I'll grab a, This would be a good scenario. Again, debugging node, right? To see what's going on. I don't see it. Let me double check, make sure this is pin COM16, which it is. And I'm separating the data by \t. That might be the problem. It should be \n, but let me just double check it with my debug node. And nothing is coming. So that could be that my node thread is running. The serial port on port 16 is open and it's running. I should get the data. Oh, this is not connected. Okay, maybe I need to refresh it. 80% of the problem, oh, it crashed actually. Now I'm not connected. Let me go ahead and restart, I guess. Restart the node thread. Or stop it, for in my case. Okay, now it's running. So let's go ahead and reload the node thread. So the data should pour in right now as the serial port, but it's not coming. So this message payload is not showing any data. So there should be some connectivity issue. So anyway, I mean, you would be able to see the color of the LED actually changing as on the dashboard as the color of the actual LED is changing, which I thought is very neat. I have never seen anyone doing such a thing. That's
it was on your videos. You had it working. It was impressive to see it.
Yeah, it is working. Yeah,
the screen matching at the same time. I was impressed. That was for sure.
I think I know why it's working. Can you guys see the Mu is running?
Oh, yep.
It could be that one. Let me just go ahead and connect the Mu to this one. This is, I believe it's port, serial port. Let me go ahead and change this one. This should be done. And it could be serial port. And I'm gonna go ahead and change it to port 20. I think the Mu is connected to port 20. Let's keep our finger crossed that this is gonna work. There you are. Oh, no, the serial port error, opening port access denied. Oh, that's because Mu is using it. Yeah. So let me close this one and make sure that this is actually uploaded. No, not upload, download. I'm still getting used to this upload and download and save option in Mu. Okay, then let's refresh this one. And go back to the test. Oh boy, it's not working. It just, oh, I think I did play the message that color is message that payload. That should be okay. Interesting thing, nothing is coming to my. Okay, let me stop this one. I'm guessing that this might have something to do with it. None.
Yeah, I think part of this shows, I've had this, when you get all these flows going, it gets a little confusing. And
yeah, I got it to work just, last night. I was working on it to make sure that it works. But right now the hex color value is not coming in. That's, let me just delete this one. Sometimes it's a good idea to reestablish everything from scratch. It's for me, it always works. So let me go back to my, oh, right now I'm using mu. So I have to use the port 20. Let me use the \n here. This is meaning that you're separating your data, you split your data every new line. I'm guessing that that might be part of the problem. I did talk about it, but I didn't change it. There you are. Now you can see the data is coming, right? The splitter that I used was not the right one. So now if you go back to the Node-RED and then use the test stuff, there you are. I hope that you can see the color now on my hand. Yeah, it's very close. The LED, the RGB LED that we have on this board is actually way more, it's better than the one I use on my Arduino, because the Arduino one was, I hacked it out of one other project. It was inside the board, so I have to take it out and solder it. It was a mess. Okay, the next one, sorry, is actually passing the sensors information. Exact same process. Now this time what I do, I separate them with a \t. Oh, I see what's going on. So it seems that the serial port that I'm using here, it used the exact same setting on the other flow. So now for this one, I know the way I got it to work was you have to use a \t. Okay, it's gonna stop working the other one, but let's go ahead and, sorry, it takes time. And I have used a sensor called LM35. It's an analog sensor. I use this sensor because it has a very linear relationship. I mean, the sensor that Professor showed us, that was a great one. The one-line temperature sensor. This is very similar, but the reading, it's not that difficult. It reads it in a range of millivolts. So the only thing that you need to do, you need to actually multiply it by the 100. And because the ADC that we have on a Arduino is a 10-bit, and the reference voltage is on a 0 to 5. So I'm using this equation that you see here to actually convert that analog digital reading into the Celsius. That's very straightforward. And then here I'm going to just show you guys how to how the data is pouring into the serial port. So so here you can see that the Celsius is at the beginning, it tries to calibrate itself. Within my actual code also, I did some smooth filtering. I'm sure you guys are familiar with it, because you don't want to actually use the immediate reading of the temperature or any sensor. You want to actually collect a bunch of them, average them, or do some different, calculations. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the geometric mean. You want to actually, average them, reduce the impact of the outliers. But then, in order to pass the data to the Node-RED, I do not, send the entire packet, because it's a mess to actually split the data. So I'm just split them very straightforward using a tab and comma. That's it. So let me run it, and then let's go back to the Node-RED. And within the Node-RED, I need to change the serial port, right? Because I set it on the mu, which was connected on the port 16, 20. So this is 16. I'm using the \tab to separate the data. And then I do extract the Fahrenheit and Celsius, and then I would deploy it. I think this is the last thing I want to show you guys. So the way that I set up these gauges and bar graph is the same way that I show you guys on the other side. Let me turn off this mu. It's causing some problems. It's not deploying. just reset my Node-RED one more time. There you are. So double check this is connected. Let's double check, make sure the data is coming. You know, that's a good practice to get used to it. There you are. You can see the data is coming. The first, you know, data is the Fahrenheit. The second one is the Celsius, right? And it's coming, I believe, as fast. It's not a very fast communication. And you have to actually massage your data to be able to get it, you know, to be displayed on a gauge. So then you have the data here, it's graphing, this is Celsius, and you have them, you know, in Celsius on a gauge, and this is the Fahrenheit. So now I'm just touching the, you know, sensor. I know my temperature is around 28. Hopefully I don't have a chrono. Oh, 29. Okay, yeah, it's 29 or maybe 30. So one thing about this sensor also is it's very accurate. I have tested actually with the same sensor that the professor shows, the DH11. This one was off by, you know, 4 Celsius. So what I did actually in my actual project, I used my room thermostat as a reference, and then I calibrate the reading of this one based on that. Although it's not the best way to do it, but that was what I had in hand, and I did that. If there is any question, please go ahead and ask. If you, you know, if you don't, and if you want me, you know, help you guys, please let me know. Okay?
Yeah, there are presenters.
There's 2 questions coming. Can you run different flows in parallel, or do you? Yes, definitely. You saw that I'm running a couple of them right at the same time, right? That openweather.org was running, and if you go back, I think the thing is, I just realized, and I see it, you cannot use the parallel serial port, right? Because as you saw, I'm changing the LM35 serial port. That could be because I'm using the same name for these 2 flows. It could be, but right now, the problem that we had at the beginning was the flow that I was working on the temperature sensor actually changed the other one. We could simply test it, but other similar and parallel application, I have seen it running without any problem. You know, you can see that you can look at the LED color and the open weather station and also the temperature sensor right at the same time. Sometimes it's a good idea to give the sensor 3 seconds to allow for calibration. That's definitely is correct, yeah. And that's what I noticed for the sensor I use. Yeah, thanks, Ryan. Yeah, that's definitely is correct. So what I do actually, I use a smoothing filter to actually smooth the data to make sure that, you know, it's not, the data is not jumping. So there is a technique, normally statisticians they're using, they call it geometric mean. The way they do it, instead of having arithmetic mean, adding the numbers, dividing by the total number of the digits, what they do, they calculate they multiply the numbers together, and they calculate the, you know, a square of, not a square root, a square to the power of the number of those digits. So it's a funny ways to put it there. I can show you guys here actually. Let me just bring it. So a lot of people, they don't know this one. This is very good. So let's say, for example, you have x1 plus x2 plus x3, right? Let's say, for example, one of the reading should be around, 21 Celsius, right? This is reading 22, but this is reading, for example, you can go 70, it's okay. So if you go with the arithmetic mean, you just divide this one by the number of the 10. So your output would be, impacted by the, drastically by your outlier. But the arithmetic mean, you could just do the square of 3 of the x1 times x2 times x3. So this would be the impact of the outlier on your reading is way, way less than, the arithmetic. So they call it geometric mean. Yeah. Sorry, I talk a lot, and I'm just gonna stop sharing, and you guys ask questions if you have. If not, we'll enjoy the class. You know,
No, Mohammed, that was great stuff.